This is the Frat House Sports Show. And now for this week's completely different and humorous perspective on everything sports, here's Frat House Mike and Sidekick.
Alrighty there, you found us on our St. Patrick's version of the Frat House Sports Show, and well, we might end up calling this the Mad Irish Rant Show before we're all done. You know, it's St. Patrick's Day. It should be warm outside, but well, Mother Nature is not having any of it just yet. It has been brutally.
You have to ask me nicely.
Wind chills today near zero and into the mid-teens, about the best we can do. But we're trying to keep it warm right here at
we got
the
up
Frat
to
House.
70 yesterday. Come on.
70 yesterday, and folks, no joke. I think wind chills today were in the teens. I mean, it's just been insane. We do have Uncle Mark back with us this week. Thank you very much. That'll warm things up. You got to know that'll happen. And since we're talking warmth, I am going to do our public service announcement for this week, and that is a reminder that, folks, yes, we do have only 17 days until the, let me couch this correctly, the U.S. opening of Major League Baseball. I say U.S. because, frankly, sorry, Major League Baseball, I'm not counting those fraud Australian games on March 22nd and 23rd that, yes, they will count, believe it or not, on the board. I don't have a problem with games being played in Australia. I mean, listen, we got our buddy Mick over there who's covering the games for us for Frat House Sports. But to have them counting, I think, is a little bit ridiculous. All right.
Rant
so
number one.
There's one. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Just keeping track at home. Drink.
All right. But there you have it. And that's not even our big story. Let's get to our big stories. How about that? We're going to get to our big stories. Late yesterday afternoon and last evening, my Facebook newsfeed kind of exploded with my New York friends, oozing excitement and praise for the New York Knicks, and welcoming Phil Jackson to the team into a role that no one could even describe what it is, because no one knows exactly what it is. For the life of me, folks, I got to be honest, I do not understand the fascination with the 70-year-old Zen master, who for the past few seasons, well, he has, in my opinion, kind of soiled his reputation, jerking teams around in either, one, a juvenile thrill of making prank phone calls, or two, a much more serious mental condition, obviously pointing to either a commitment problem or an identity crisis. Fans, particularly New York fans, so caught up in the foggy mystique of this guy who has, listen, mind you, he has rightfully done something no other person has ever done and probably ever will. And that is he's won 11 NBA championships. I take nothing away from him for that over a 20-year period. But consider for a moment, the Knicks approached Jackson about coaching their team. That initially was their first attempt. And apparently that's still possibly the case. Nobody's really quite sure yet. If he does, however, the word is already that he will only be coaching home games. Do we got that now? Home games. That's 41 games a season. The away games, well, I guess that's...
I'm looking for the least possible amount of responsibility.
Of course, he can make that demand. I mean, he's Phil Jackson after all. But consider for a moment just how ludicrous and asinine an arrangement like that would be, and that any team would even consider doing it. But the Knicks apparently have. Apparently, the Knicks have modified their offer to Jackson, offering him the position of president of player personnel. Also, yet consider for another moment that Jackson has absolutely no track record whatsoever in this particular position. He's been an X's and O's, guys, folks, not a pluses and minus guy. Also consider for a moment that Jackson will be commuting to New York from both his Montana ranch and his other interests in Marina del Rey in California. And I ask this final question: has anyone really brought to question the fact that Jackson's current fiance is one Jeannie Buss, the daughter of former Los Angeles Lakers owner Jerry Buss, and she currently serves as the president of the Los Angeles Lakers? Has anyone considered that one for a moment? Yet, comments from the New York media resemble something like this: Phil Jackson will be joining the Knicks. This move will go a long way in revamping the culture of this franchise. So far, the word is that Jackson has agreed to join the Knicks verbally and in principle. He has not signed anything, and there is, at this current time, absolutely no description whatsoever of what his job is or what his title will be. Just bring Jackson in, and guess what? You're going to get a championship. Are you freaking kidding me?
That's 2 for people counting it up.
Okay, you're killing me.
But now, here's
Yes.
a little conspiracy theory.
Go ahead.
Let me throw this out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. There's no contract yet.
Yes,
There's
you're
a
correct.
verbal agreement.
Correct.
And there are some in the media who believe he's merely posturing to get LA to give him more.
Well, okay, but then can I? Oh my goodness, there is a conflict of interest here. His fiance is the freaking president of the Lakers.
I know. And apparently, also,
Any of this getting through to you, son?
there's a little rift between her and her brother, who is the other part of the ownership of the Lakers. So, interesting.
I'm done. Okay, that was 2, as Sidekick pointed out. That was 2. Let's go over and take a look at another one.
Another rant or another story?
Both. With the exception of a few court appearances and appeals, we haven't seen much of Barry Bonds in the past few years. And for most of us baseball fans, well, we liked it that way very, very much. Thank you. With that in mind, I sincerely have to question the judgment currently of the San Francisco Giants, who decided to bring Bonds out of his seclusion on Monday as a hitting advisor during their team's spring training. Why and what for? There are my questions to the Giants.
How to juice and how not to juice, I suspect.
Yeah, that's a hell of an advisor. Both the team and Bonds knew they were going to have to address the media with this splashy assignment, and what ensued was simultaneously, in my opinion, both laughable and nauseating. Bonds refused to answer and worked around questions circling the wagons on things like PED usage, saying things like, well, I've already appeared in court for things like that. Boom, leaving it there. And when drawing parallels to his situation and that of Alex Rodriguez, he simply claimed, we're friends. Yeah, I bet you are. I respect him as an athlete. I bet you do. And always will. When asked whether this was all just a ploy to reinvigorate his reputation following 2, not 1, 2 failed Hall of Fame votes, his remarks were almost scolding in tone. Oh no, I was just scolded by Barry Bonds. I think you guys are all adults. I have no advice for you. Oh, let me run and hide. Barry Bonds just told me where to go. But it got laughably sickening when asked directly whether he should be Hall of Fame, quote unquote, without a doubt. He responded without hesitation. I've got a without a doubt for you, Mr. Bonds. Go away. We liked it better when you were in seclusion. Take your egotistical pomposity back to your medicine cabinet. Without a doubt. We don't want to see you. We don't want to hear you. We don't want to smell you.
And
Oh, boy, is my face red.
Okay.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking I'm doing pretty good, considering.
Okay, your color's coming back. So.
Okay.
Oh, boy, is my face red.
It's eerily quiet on the set right now.
How do you follow that up?
Oh, gosh. All right, let's go take
Well, I tell you, go ahead. This is how we're going to follow that story up. Go right ahead.
Oh, we're going to follow it up with free agency over in the NFL? Is that how we're going to follow? Okay. What do you got planned? Listen, truly, let's go over and take a look at the NFL. Free agency started on Tuesday.
Oh, yes. Of course. This won't be a rant now, will it?
Sidekick's rant.
My
Coming
rant,
right now.
of course, we're going to talk about the Broncos.
Crush.
Well, you're going to see in a moment. There is a reason that this is up here. But listen, no.
We know that.
There's been a lot of movement, obviously. We've seen a lot of player changes, players going to different teams. And for obvious reasons, we don't have time to go through and analyze each and every one of them.
Yeah, we'll just do the Broncos.
No. There's a couple that I think are actually well worth noting, and I'm going to throw the question out. Okay. You're going to see it in a moment.
Okay.
We saw today Darren Sproles going over to the Eagles.
Yes.
For a 5th round. Now, this was a trade, folks. This wasn't part of the free agency. This was a trade for a 5th round pick. Why so cheap? And I'm going to start throwing questions out. We need to get other people involved. Just not, the folks don't want to just hear from Frat House Mike. But why so cheap?
I don't. Were they figuring they were just going to get rid of Sproles and hey, we'll take whatever you'll give us, Or do they know something that maybe the rest of the league doesn't know? I mean, it's not like there's nothing we've seen in his stats that say, he's a bust or he's
absolutely
injury ridden or I guess on the looking at it right now, it looks like the Eagles got a steal.
Oh, I think absolutely they got a steal. All right, so that's one of them. And what I consider to be one of the more laughable ones, Eric Decker last night announced went to the Jets 5 years, $36.25 million head scratcher. That one's a head scratcher to me. Darrelle Revis to the Patriots for 1 year, $12 million. I throw both of these out there to both gentlemen. Let me throw it over to Uncle Mark. Uncle Mark, jump in here. Why 1 year for Darrelle Revis? What's your thinking on that one? And I think $36.25 million for Decker, way too much.
The Revis thing, the only thing that comes to mind for me would be that he's potentially damaged goods. So there might be some question as to really, what are we getting for this guy? The agent probably demanded a higher salary number since they were only willing to negotiate a 1 year deal. So maybe there's part of that on the other side as far as why he's getting that kind of money for such a short-term contract. So we'll see. No man's an island, and hopefully, I guess the Patriots are hoping that's the case. We want this guy to be part of a team, but for 1 year, it kind of makes me wonder.
But when you say damaged goods, I don't think you mean physically.
Well, yeah, no, not exactly physically, but yes, there's been some physical issues there. As we know, we don't know if he couldn't re-injure, and certainly he can be outspoken. And that in the locker room and some of that,
trouble with all the other teams he's been with, yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that Belichick and company are going to have to certainly, and they're used to, having to rein that in and get the guy on board. The Decker thing does blow my mind, only because, but for pretty good playoff, what are you looking at with Decker? Is it really that kind of multi-year, mega million? Is he that kind of superstar? I don't know.
And who are the Jets? I mean, who's throwing to him? That's the other big question.
Well, yeah, right. Why go to New York Jets? Why would you choose that as your option?
Really.
That's baffling.
But the big, and the reason, you're busting my shoes before. The reason we had the Broncos up there is because of all the movements that have taken place. It seems to me this is the big one. I mean, we're looking at Aqib Talib going from the Patriots over to the Broncos. And then a day later, we got DeMarcus Ware going over to the Broncos. This
and you
obviously,
TJ Ward going.
Yes, right. Obviously, this was a deficiency on the Broncos' part, the defensive issues with their game plan. And it appears that they're attempting to address this right now, real fast. And some are saying, Well, just stop right now. Just hand them the Lombardi Trophy now.
Yeah, how'd that work out for them last season?
Okay, no, and I understand your.
What are they doing? As our technical director, what are they doing with the
No, and I understand your emotionalism about it, and the fact you're not a big Broncos fan. I got that. Okay, but my question is, they are addressing needs, and it appears that they have addressed them pretty firmly.
To look at it, to be a little bit more fair about it, I think what they're looking at is they're on borrowed time, kind of.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's exactly right.
They've got. All
right, now you're getting to where I was going.
You've got X number of years that
you might only have 1 year.
Right.
They might only have 1 year. Let's get it straight.
So, they're putting everything on the table, and they're going lock, stock, and barrel trying to win this thing.
Right.
So, but anybody watch that Super Bowl? I don't think defense was their problem.
Okay.
I mean, yes, a defense is going to help them, but where was their offense in that Super Bowl game? Where was it?
Yeah. All right.
And it's not like, I don't think you're going to see that big of a drop-off in Seattle this year.
Defensively.
Right.
You're saying defensively you won't see that big of a drop-off.
I'm not. Right now, there hasn't been any big, trades.
Yeah, right. There hasn't been anything that's decimated them. We're seeing a lot of movement going on in New Orleans.
Yes.
That would lead one to believe, or at least question mark, what the hell is New Orleans going to be looking like? They almost look like Baltimore at this point right now. This time last year, Baltimore was selling everything off. What the hell is New Orleans doing? So you got to wonder what their scheme is. What's their plan of attack? Right. Because New Orleans wasn't a bad team this past year. They were fourth in offense and fourth in defense, across the entire league. So what is New Orleans thinking that they're doing? I don't know. But
honestly, the surprise I have, and we were talking about a little bit about this, in the pre-show, is that the LA Rams have made no moves.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So, now, does that come as a surprise to you?
A little bit, honestly. I thought we'd see something.
I thought there would be something, yeah.
But I mean, literally, they signed one free agent that failed a Raiders physical. Mm-hmm. So they re-signed him. That's it. That's all they have on the board in free agency right now. All
right, well, those are our big stories for this week. Before we get off of football and jump over into a little NHL talk, let's take a look at our Frat House Sports Facebook post of the week, which was the post that I put up the other night, announcing that the New England Patriots had moved, or not had moved, but Aqib Talib of the New England Patriots had jumped over to the Denver Broncos. And that particular post got almost 2,000 views and a lot of conversation going on below it, a lot of activity. That's the kind of thing we like to see over on our Facebook page. You want to be a part of that, you got to get over to our Facebook page. You got to give us a like, and you got to jump in on that, because that's what it's all about. It's a lot of fun. All right, let's get in and talk a little NHL hockey, and that means it's time for our hat trick segment, brought to you by our good friends Jim and Carl over at CLW83.com. They're really starting to kick things up now as we start moving into the beginning of the new seasons. We've been talking about them now for a couple of weeks, baseball and all their other new seasons that they've got coming up in their podcast program. So get over there to CLW83.com and check them out. And that means we got to bring in Uncle Mark. Uncle Mark, we got about, less than 20 games, I think, remaining on the schedule for most teams, about 17, maybe 15 in some cases. There were some meetings this week. What do you got for us?
Yeah, we got together, all the GMs got together for their annual meeting down in Boca Raton, Florida. And the GMs, along with Bettman, came together basically to pat themselves on the back, because 2 weeks out of the Olympics, the NHL is back, and based on this, based on all kinds of criteria, and let's lead it off quickly with the 6 outdoor games which were played successfully by the NHL this year. The GMs had nothing but good things to say about the future of hockey and where we're going. Concussions are on a downtick. However, Gary Bettman wouldn't reveal any numbers.
Sure.
We think they're down. We think they're down, and that's in large measure to what Brandon and those guys have been doing to help players play more safely. So, okay, that's good. There was a little bit of talk about changing some face-off protocol. Possibly moving players back, possibly separating players instead of having them stand right up upon each other. What they're trying to do is tweak the game without addressing the bane of everyone's existence, which is shootouts. Okay.
Yeah, really.
Because let's be honest, they're bound to set a record, in my view. If not this year, certainly next year, in having shootouts determine games. And I think it's the most stupid thing. While not on the agenda, there was chatter among the GMs about expansion. Hey, let's be honest. There's nothing wrong with this game. Why don't we keep pushing that frontier? And two of the big names out west, city names that keep coming up, and this pretty much has been the case going back to November and December of last year, include Las Vegas, Nevada, one possibility, and Seattle, Washington as the other possibility. Now, the third flag, which we're showing in our graphic there behind you, would be Quebec City. And, of course, Quebec desperately wants another franchise. But if you're going to expand, you really need to do it in 2s or 4s or 6s. It's got to be an even number, obviously. And the Seattle-Las Vegas thing would work very well, only because, well, right now the Western Conference only supports 14 teams versus the East at 16. Well, you add those two, and there's your 32 teams, and that's ideally what the league would like. Interesting little side note about the, and it just makes me chuckle, about the Quebec thing, because like I say, they really would. That fan base up there would love to have, a Nordiques kind of team return. Interestingly, the billionaire that is on the potential buy as an owner of a new NHL expansion franchise, a fellow by the name of Pierre-Karl Péladeau, is just happening to run for election, and he's a provincial party member that advocates the separation of Quebec from Canada.
Yes.
And so there might be a little fly in the
There could be a little problem there. The NHL might not dig that one too much.
No, I can't imagine too many GMs are getting on board to vote all in to have this guy, let's say, control how, the exchange rate is going to be between the Canadian and American dollar and that sort of thing. So it does give me pause. The NHL standings, we're looking at it. We're closing in. You've mentioned it. We've got about 20-odd games per team left in the year. And, I mean, really what it comes down to this time of year, boys, and you both know it, is, you've got your bubble teams, but really when it all is said and done, you need to know who are your best closers. And it's just like any other sale. If you're going to have a sale, if you're going to make moves, you got to have closers. Unfortunately, the man that's showing up right behind you is at the absolute pit of controversy. And if there's any closing for John Tortorella, it might be the door closing behind him.
I love him.
You do, but I don't know. Michael, I don't know if you would like him if he was a Philadelphia coach.
Well,
now, let me tell you.
I don't know, but I love him. I love the guy. I think he's hysterical. Go ahead.
John Tortorella has been coaching since 2001. That was his first year, and he's got 400 coaching career wins. I mean, that's a pretty good milestone.
Sure.
Interestingly enough, the guy's been around. He gave Tampa Bay their very first Stanley Cup, and that was just before the lockout year of 2004-2005. He's proceeded to go on and have, like I say, up to 400 coaching wins as a USA coach. He's found success and brought it to the New York Rangers, and, of course, most recently in Vancouver. The problem is the man's more known for his controversy than he is for his coaching prowess. I mean, we know he's outspoken by nature. He criticizes his own players. He's been involved in controversies over and over. 2005, 2006. Okay, he's in Tampa Bay. He's got a problem because his goaltender then, Nikolai Khabibulin, is being what should I say, infringed upon by salary cap restrictions, so he leaves. What does Tortorella do? Instead of getting behind his goaltender, John Graham, he proceeds to run him down in the press, so much so that John Graham up and leaves the following year and wins a Stanley Cup with another team. He's involved in controversy again in 2007 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He was holding a press conference in which a New York Post reporter out and out said to him, "Are you going to answer questions?" And he more or less told the guy to go F himself live on CBC television. Okay? He's been recently, as we know, suspended while he was involved now with Vancouver. Of course, that was in the Calgary fiasco in which he spent 15 days away from the team. He was forbidden to have any contact with the team whatsoever. It's a shame. Up until Christmas, this is what I would say about Tortorella. Up until Christmas, the Canucks were doing very well, okay? And he was getting a lot of credit. He was getting them to play like a team. And it seemed the turning point was when they went to a game in L.A. in early January. And the Canucks seemed to be more interested in that contest in fighting than winning. Yeah. And after a 1-0 loss, basically Tortorella said, it was a moral victory that we went out there and at least we had fisticuffs. And, the very next night they go to Anaheim, one of the best teams in the league, and they completely lost their composure. They get trounced 9-1. And then, several days later, there they are in Calgary, and there's a brawl and Torts is involved. So unfortunately, it's really a shame because that team looked like they were a closer at right around Christmas time, and that team is out of it. Who's your best teams right now? Your best defensive teams, looking at the standings. Best defensive teams in the third period this season. How about St. Louis Blues, okay? Boston Bruins, the LA Kings. They're only giving up like 43 goals against. 45 goals against, 46 goals against in the third period. And those are winning teams. Those are teams that are going to go somewhere. The Kings have yet. The LA Kings, I don't know they're going to be what they were 2 years ago when they won the Cup. But this much I'll give them. The Kings are currently the only team yet to lose this season when leading after 2 periods. In other words, they're closers. When they see a way to latch on and get goals in that second period, they shut down in the third period. The Rangers are interesting. They're certainly a bubble team, but who can say? The Flyers, the same. Looking at it, I mean, we kind of know who they're going to be. It's going to be Boston. It's going to be Pittsburgh on the east side. Those are your two. Certainly Tampa Bay is viable. And the West is just a powerhouse. I mean, there's 6 or 7 teams out there that are viable and on any given night could make a difference. Final thought I wanted to throw out would be, our thoughts here from the Frat House for the kid, Rich Peverly, who's with the Dallas Stars. He was recently, he had an issue on the bench. Actually, the 31-year-old basically had a heart issue. Medical staff treated him immediately. His heart did stop for a period of about 10 seconds. They got him revived. He's gone through a season-ending heart procedure. He did address the media today. It is hopeful that he'll return. He is a former Stanley Cup champion with the Bruins back in 2012, and heck of a good kid, heck of a good player, and just one of those guys that you don't necessarily hear about. Dallas Stars may or may not be a Stanley Cup favorite, but I'll tell you what, this guy is heart and soul hockey. Absolutely.
The amazing thing about this guy, they resuscitate him, they quickly take him off. Game's canceled or at least postponed. And he gets himself back up and he's alert, whatever. He turns, he says, I want to get back out on the ice. And of course, everybody, of course, making that's hockey players for you versus, I don't know, some of our NBA prima donnas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. No. Exactly. All right, Uncle Mark, thank you for the NHL report, and also thanks to our friends over at CLW83.com for sponsoring our NHL segments for us every week. All right? Okay, let's get over and take a look at a little auto racing. And we're going to cover a couple of auto racing, not just NASCAR this week. We're going to also touch on a little drag racing and our racing segment this evening is brought to you by, excuse me, our good friend Chris and company down at Herb FM, herbfm.com. They sent us a promo last night that's going to be running on their airwaves, exclusively advertising our show that comes on their airwaves on Saturdays at 3 o'clock. You must hear this, folks. It is fabulous. And we're going to take you out tonight with the credits on with that promo. So you're going to have to hang with us the whole time if you want to hear that. It is phenomenal. Many, many thanks to Chris. Great job on that. We really appreciate it. But let's get over and take a look at NASCAR this week. Third race of the season. We were out at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And as it turned out, I'll just run down the top 5 and how they came in. Brad Keselowski won the race. He was the lap leader, 53 laps led. Dale Earnhardt Jr. came in second. He also had 51 laps led himself. Paul Menard came in third from a 21st starting position. Joey Logano came in fourth. That was his second fourth place finish in 2 weeks. He had a fourth place finish out in Phoenix. And Carl Edwards came in fifth and got himself a top 5. Keselowski got lucky. I mean, let's get it straight. That was Junior's race. He won the race. Keselowski won it, but Junior had that race sewn up had it not been for the fuel issue. Junior ran out of fuel, and it was a calculated risk. They knew it going in. He ran out of fuel in like the last turn of the last lap. Otherwise, that's all Junior's. But this is a great start for Junior.
Sure.
I mean, we've got a win, and we've got 2 top 5s. This is a first driver in, I think he's a fourth driver, actually, since 1972 to do this. 3 out of 4 of those have gone on to win championships. So just an incredible turnaround for Junior. I asked it last week. I'm not going to ask it again. But, I brought up the whole concept about it being charmed. And it certainly appears at this point right now that, well, at least more and more, it seems to be coming to pass. Second week in a row as well, we saw the concept of knockout qualifying. And there was a little bit of controversy surrounding some of it. Brian Vickers was quite vocal about it this past weekend, where he indicated it was flat out unsafe. NASCAR made some modifications to that. And that's the beauty, really, folks, of NASCAR. We see this all the time, and we've brought it up here on the show many, many times. NASCAR's not like any other league. When they want to make changes, they make them right away. Sure. I mean, they can make something happen, bam, that's going to go into effect. And they did this week. They made some changes to qualifying already that are going to go into effect for Bristol.
Yes.
What do we got?
Well, I'll give you a quick rundown of the these are qualifying changes. These are not, they're now allowing teams to have one cool down unit connected to either the left or right side of the hood, to cool the engine. The hood has to stay closed the whole time.
Right.
Plugging in the generator for the car is not allowed, and they will allow 2 crew members over the wall to support the car and the driver. Now, this is where, they've been talking about this. Last weekend they went in and they said, hey, it's a little early before we tweak this. Mm-hmm. Okay?
And they were right.
And now they're going to Bristol. Okay? And this is where I think the key hinges on this whole thing, on this whole qualifying change. No cool down laps will be permitted. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was one of the beefs. It wasn't so much.
Right.
It wasn't so much that they were pushing. Penske was saying, "Hey, we can hook up these cool down units to the cars, and help cool down the cars to avoid running them
underneath, which is where Brian Vickers was, where he made the claim." Right.
Okay. So to me, I think this is coming out because of safety.
Right.
Because we're going to Bristol. You're going to have 46 cars on the track at Bristol. Bristol is a half-mile track. Even the straightaways are banked. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're going to have guys qualifying at speeds, at regular speed, and then you're going to have guys going 55 miles an hour down the inside of the track
to try to
cool their cars off.
Right.
It's calamity waiting to happen. So that's why I think NASCAR stepped in this week and they say, look, for Bristol and going forward, we're now no longer going to allow cool-down laps.
With Bristol, though, being a smaller track, wouldn't the cool-down period be less than it would have been required, say, at Phoenix or at Las Vegas?
Well, it depends on your qualifying runs. Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski from Penske were saying, hey, we haven't had an issue with cooling our cars down, but we qualify on our first runs. The teams that are having the cool down issues are the teams that are having to make multiple runs trying to qualify.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, I mean, they've addressed at least that one big issue that Brian Vickers brought up. All right. One of the things I would encourage everybody to do, we've started doing this. We started doing it actually right after Daytona. If you check our website out, FratHouseSports.net, Monday or Tuesday at the latest, you can get race summaries right from us written here. So get the lowdown on what happened in this past weekend's race, our perspective on it. You can get it on Monday or Tuesday over on our website, FratHouseSports.net. Get over there and check that out. Real quick, we'll take a look at the leaderboard. And again, we're only three races into it, folks. So not anything major here. Dale stays up at the top, obviously, as I pointed out. 1 win now, 3 top 5s, if you count the win, obviously, in there. Brad Keselowski jumps up to number 2 on the leaderboard. Identical stats, virtually. 1 win and 3 top 5s. Jimmy Johnson moves up to 3rd. Logano up to 4th now because of his 2 top 4s in a row, as I pointed out. Notice Harvick has dropped out of the top 5 at this point. I think. Do you remember where's Harvick standing? I think he's like 8th.
Oh,
I think he dropped from like 3rd or 4th to 8th. Jeff Gordon stays in the top 5 at this point. Bristol, as you just pointed out, comes up on Sunday. Half mile, right? Yep. Is that what you said? Half mile, yes. One of the smallest tracks on the entire circuit comes up on Sunday. You can catch it. Fox, 1 o'clock. Well, we're going to get ourselves a 1 o'clock race. That'll be nice. 1 o'clock Eastern time. And that means we need to get your fantasy picks for this week. And everybody's sitting on the edge of their seats. It's gotten competitive this season. I'm getting a lot of notes over on the Facebook page from other folks and what have you. Oh, man, this has gotten good this year.
Yep. All right, we're going to the Bull Ring in Thunder Valley. That is, for those of you that don't know, Bristol Motor Speedway, the half-mile track where the whole track is banked. It's so short. So here we go. Picks for the week. Kyle Busch, $27.75. This one should be a no-brainer for you folks. He's a 5-time winner. He's got he's finished second 3 times, and he leads all the drivers in laps led and fastest laps. So he's a moneymaker at Bristol. Then we're going to throw in last week's winner, Brad Keselowski. He's $26. The Penske boys have been off to a fast start this season. They've been qualifying really well, and he has 2 wins at this track also. Then we're going to go with I guess is the girls would say the cutie, Casey Kane, $25.75. Bristol was good to Mr. Casey last year with a win in this race and then a second place in the August race. From there, we're just going to hold them, and we're going to stick with David Gilliland at $13.75. And the lucky dog, if he qualifies, will be Michael McDowell at $5.25. Now, programming alert. If you're going to pick Kenseth this week, you're going to want to keep an eye on his status for Sunday. His wife is expecting, and they have backup drivers lined up for him.
Have they announced who?
I didn't see.
Okay.
who the backup drivers were. But in case they do put in a backup driver for him, he will not get any points.
Correct.
Since he didn't. Yeah.
Same situation as, who was it the other week? Menard.
Yes.
Yeah, Paul Menard last week, right?
Yep. Same exact thing. Sadler. Okay, we're being told Sadler. All right. That comes from the voice of God back there.
Yeah.
All right, let's go take a look at our Frat House Sports fantasy standings. All right. There's Sidekick up there, and Team Bloodback up there in 5.
Yep.
I'm at 7. But our fantasy team, Sidekick Spoilers, you were up where? At number 1 last week, right?
I was number 1.
Dropped it down a little bit to number 4.
Yeah, something happened. I was leading.
But again, consider there are what? How many do we have? 25. There are 25 in the league. So our technical director, yes, the voice of God is in 3rd.
Yes.
So the voice of God right now is in 3rd place. All right. And again, we're only showing the top 10 because that's all that I can hold on the screen. And otherwise, if I
was
were
going to say, why doesn't Mark get a circle? Uncle Mark is down there.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. I missed it completely.
No love for Uncle Mark.
Yeah, that's my fault. My bad. Yes, Uncle Mark. Well, that's Road Rage, though. That's the second team. That's the second Uncle Mark team. That's in 9th place. So, anyhow, listen. If I put everybody up there, this show would be running way too long.
Yep.
Right now, it's just right.
You might actually show up this week. I know you're going to pick Casey.
All right, let's move on here.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Let's get over. Hey, we need to get just real quick. Little NHRA talk. Little drag racing. We haven't touched on it at all this whole season. And believe it or not, drag racing actually began before NASCAR did. It started the week before Daytona. So we're quite a few weeks behind. They've already had 2 nationals in the books. And we're heading out to their 3rd one this coming weekend down in Gainesville, Florida at the Gator Nationals. In fact, started today, qualifying tomorrow and Saturday, and then the finals on Sunday. But with 2 already under their belts, let's take a look at the leaderboard real quick. Doug Kalita is up at the top in the Top Fuel Dragster position, and he's 26 points right now, ahead of Al Belushi, 35 points ahead of Antron Brown. In the funny car division, it's been all John Force this year. It's been incredible. Coming off of his 16th championship from last season, at the end of last season, John Force right now, 66 points ahead of his own team driver, Robert Height. And in the Pro Stock division, call it early in the season, V Gaines right now leading that one 11 points ahead of Jason Line. You can catch NHRA drag racing this weekend, ESPN2. I believe that they're going to probably be broadcasting those at around 8 p.m. on both Saturday and Sunday. NCAA basketball. We can't get out of here without mentioning that. I'm sorry. Yes, don't forget. I don't want to forget. And it's highlighted.
For the 2nd week in a row.
It's highlighted. Many thanks, Chris and folks. And hang with us through the credits, folks. You're going to hear that terrific promotion that they do for us. Herb FM. Get over there. Make sure you check them out. But let's jump over to NCAA basketball real quick. We got conference tournaments going on right now. We're in it now. March Madness is here. We got Selection Sunday coming up on Sunday. And at that point, we will know what the bracket looks like, who the folks are that are going to the field of, well, I guess we can't say 64 anymore. We're supposed to be saying 68 because they got stupid playing games on, I guess it's what, Tuesday and Wednesday? Is it Tuesday?
My
Wednesday,
goodness, what a push you're making.
It's stupid.
Go Florida Gulf Coast.
There you go. Woo-woo. Yeah. But anyhow, we've got conference tourneys going on right now in many cases. Not all, but in many cases. But let's take a look real quick. This was the Associated Press Top 10 rankings that came out on Monday. Again, I bring this up. A lot of this has already changed. I will bring up a couple of them. Notice the Louisville Cardinals jumping up to number 5. With Villanova today getting knocked out of their conference tournament. It is very possible, depending on how Louisville does in their conference tournament, you could see them move up. I predicted last week that Syracuse would be off the board. Guess what? Syracuse is off the board. They're not out of it, folks. They're just off the top 10 board. Other notables to point out, Michigan jumped all the way up from 12 to number 8. San Diego State Aztecs, they're hanging there in the top 10 spot as well. Kansas dropped down just slightly as well. Don't look for Kansas to be coming in that low once the 64 is decided. Look for Kansas to be possibly a number 1, maybe a number 2 seed. That would be my prediction on that one. The Cavaliers are everybody's surprise. Virginia Cavaliers, possibly a sleeper coming out of the NCAA tournament. We'll be talking a lot more about it next week once we know what the bracket looks like. Okay? You've got a UFC, and oh, boy. And I got it highlighted. No, I'm joking. You want to jump over and get involved in our bracket, and you only have a couple of days left to do that. Get over to our Facebook page. Give us a like. Send me a note. You'll get an invite to jump in on our bracket challenge. A lot of fun. And so we've already got about 15, 20 folks already involved in that. And we're getting more every day. So you'll want to get involved in that. Make your picks along with all of us and all your friends right here at Frat House Sports. All right. Now, I think I got a page out of place here someplace. But anyhow, you've got a UFC.
Yep, we got a UFC.
It's highlighted. You've got a
All right,
UFC
this Saturday from Dallas, we have UFC 171. We've got a welterweight title match for the vacated title that was vacated by one George St. Pierre after Johnny Hendricks laid a whooping on him and was robbed. He should have, I'm sorry, that's my rant. He should have won that title. It shouldn't have been GSP keeping the title. Anyway, so now he said, I took an ass whooping. I'm now going to go in hiatus. So now we have the number 1 and the number 3 welterweights going up for the title. And that would be Johnny Big Rig Hendricks, who's 15-2, versus Ruthless Robbie Lawler, who's 22-9-0 with 1 no contest. And then the co-main event is another welterweight match between the number 2, the natural-born killer Carlos Condit, who's 29-7-0, versus the number 11, the chosen one, Tyrone Woodley, 12-2-0, and from my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri.
All right.
So there's a couple other cards, and there's the prelims and all that other stuff. So, but good stuff for Saturday night.
Pay-per-view Saturday night.
Yes.
There you go. All right. There's our, wow, we covered a lot tonight.
Yes.
And if we didn't cover enough, well, guess what? You can get even more coverage. Jump over to our FratHouseSports.net website. You can catch all kinds of new content over there. I've got some new story ideas coming up this week. I'm actually going to be doing a whole story this week on Larry Brown, the head coach of Southern Methodist, who is going to be taking that team to the NCAA tournament. Larry Brown is an incredible story. I'm going to be writing something up on Larry Brown. You're going to want to check that out.
The Sixers coach?
You're correct. Former Sixers coach. Correct. Taking Southern Methodist University to the tournament. Yep. Incredible guy. So you're going to want to check that one out in the next couple of days as I get that one put up there. And there'll be other things coming up as well, along with our race summary. Our race summary will be up there on Monday or Tuesday. So want to be bookmarking FratHouseSports.net. All right, there you have it. That's our show for this week. We got through it.
Yep.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate all of the contributions. Appreciate all you folks out there. One more thing.
You're mocking me, aren't you?
You know what it is? I think I can do it this week. You got to keep us real. You got to keep us live. You got to keep us going. We'll see you next week.
Do you enjoy a completely different perspective from all other run-of-the-mill sports shows?
What in the wide, wide world of sports?
Then the Frat House Sports Show is the show for you. Join Frat House Mike and Sidekick every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern for your weekly dose of the Frat House Sports Show. From NASCAR to hockey and everything in between, the Frat House Sports Show covers it all. Be sure to like their page on Facebook and check out their website, FratHouseSports.net, right here on HerbFM.com.